So today we're going to be building the Minimi40. It is so cute. This is going to be available from Canon Keys, and they have been teasing this for a little bit. The group buy goes live October 31st through December 3rd. It might be small, but there's a lot. This is the sleeve that it came with. It is like a little pillowcase. And this is meant to be like quote unquote like travel keyboard as far as I know. I did bring this to TwitchCon. Look at it. It's kind of like old school like pencil case, you know? So it has a cover. Boop. And here's the board. Is that cool? So it's a little loose right now because the screws. This is the keyboard case. This is the first time I've seen something like this. I mean, maybe there have been other ones like this before, but it has a lid. It's inspired by a bento box, and the case itself is actually the keyboard as well, right? As you can see, the PCB is screwed in right here. This is the top cover, right? As you can see right here, like a bento box. There's nothing that like latches onto it. It is more of like, it uses this like silicone piece, as you can see, that goes around it. As long as it's in this case and also like somewhat flat, it won't move. But like, for example, if you were to do that, right, it falls off because there's nothing like latching onto it. This is the case. This is the board. A little 40s board, right? There are screws. It keeps the PCB in place. Here you can see on the sides, the bezels are going to be all even or equal. And then it does have this like cutout for the lid silicone piece to sit on top. So this case is ABS plus PBT injection molded. Here's the side. You can see it's very curvy. Here's the back. So it says Minimi40. It has the 4 feet. And like I said, the corner is very, very curvy. It's a very relatively simple shape. And then here is the USB port side. So it is a left-hand USB port. And then here's the front. So here's like the top of the lid.
The lid.
Here's like the side with the lid.
The lid.
Here's the back with the lid.
The lid.
And here is the USB port side with the lid.
The lid.
If you don't need the lid, it can function as a wrist rest as well. It's multifunctional. If you really want, you could just put stuff in here, you know, as a little case thing. But yeah, so this is designed by keeb, but Canon Keys is running it, and it starts at $125 for a wireless hot swap or $110 for wired hot swap. And there's gonna be 5 colors. There's white, black, sage, lavender, pink. So I have the white one. So the wireless will be using ZMK. Wired hot swap, wired solder uses QMK. And then there is a wired EC version that is QMK. And then the neat thing about this one is that you can do 2 different layouts. So you can do like staggered being like the normal, or you could do ortho if you want. So it really is just like a lunchbox bento box. It does use a Velcro. It has the branding right here. This reminds me of those like exercising work bands. Also to mention, on this bag, there is like almost like a magnetic part right here. It's not like super strong, so it could come loose, but okay, yeah, if you do that really heavily, it'll come undone. But as you can see, it is like relatively okay to keep it shut. So this uses leaf spring mount. So it looks like the plates you can get are Alu PC Palm FR4, but I guess the default is PC. So here are the internals of the board, as you can see right here. It does use the Easy Mate, right? So it looks like these are the bridges to raise it up and to keep the PCB in place from what it looks like. And then here is the battery cover that does have a screw, I guess, to like keep it shut. But it looks like in the event that, you know, you want to take it apart, you actually can. So these are bridges to lift up the internals so that the PCB can screw into place. But then here you can see like a couple different screws like all throughout, and I'm gonna take it apart. So it looks like it actually was a seam on the side, and this is just like the bottom case. So technically the case itself is 3 different pieces, right? These are held in place by 2 screws. So one thing to note is that the case screws, they are threaded. They are indeed threaded. That's nice. So here is what the bridges look like for the leaf springs. So this part is raised as like a post to screw the PCB in. These 2 are for keeping it into the case. Okay, so it's kind of interesting because there's only the screw right here, and there's not like a screw right here either. So this part does kind of like lift a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Like, it's not an issue, but mine is not like staying flat right there. But this is where the battery would go in. I'm assuming you don't actually have to take this part off. Here you can see this is where the daughter board would then go. I would say, well, relatively this case is like more on the simple side. The actual like meat of this board is all the PCB options. You do have quite a bit. You'll have ortho and then like just the normal layout, right? They'll come in wired or wireless. So you have 4 options, but it looks like it's going to be offering EC PCBs as well. That's pretty rare. I feel like that's very rare in a keyboard to have like multiple layouts in that sense, like between like ortho or staggered and also EC. So I'd say the biggest point for this is that it's very versatile. So not only can you have those two, but then you also have EC as well. But that being said, the board itself starts relatively cheap, but I'm assuming after you get like all the different PCs, all the different plates, because you need different plates, right? It could add up eventually. As you guys can see here, this is the staggered wireless PCB hot swap. So a couple different options. I don't know if this is the final layout, but looks like bottom row is actually what has the most options. So you have option of 3. You can either do a big bar or there are 2 split spacebar layouts, and then you can also pick between your right shift. So it looks like everything up here is going to be pretty set except for the spacebar row and then this part. The switch, you can see it's right here, the on and off right there. There's no per key or anything like that. And then looking at the back, so this is where the connector would go. There is a physical reset button right here. And then here is the FR4 plate. So it looks like the plate options, PC, Palm, Alu, and FR4 will come in ortho and staggered. I'm assuming the EC PCBs will use a different plate, but I'm not sure. But no flex cuts. There's also no foam. So here's everything you'll get in the box. So you'll get the lid, you'll get the base, you'll get the PC plate. So PC is default. You'll get the 2 leaf springs. So these 2 PCB of your choice. So either the staggered, the ortho, or the EC. Fly dotted board, a cable. You'll get a battery. If you get wireless, you'll get a carrying pouch, which is color specific to your case color. You'll get an elastic. And they've actually mentioned that they know this band is loose, so they're gonna make it tighter. So that's something they've already are working on. It looks like you'll get a switch and keycap puller and a USB cable. so that's neat. In terms of add-ons, you can get the keycap set that they designed for it. You can pick between wired solder PCB, wired hot swap PCB, wireless hot swap PCB, and a wired EC PCB. You can pick between the other plates, and then you can pick like a different strap, a different carrying pouch, which are available in all the 5 colors they're offering. You can buy more aluminum leaf springs if you need to. You can buy extra lids, you can buy extra cases, you can buy extra feet, extra batteries. Looks like you can mix and match this if you wanted to, right? So that's interesting. You guys don't know, but 40's users are like insane typers, okay? If anything, they're the true like custom keyboard warriors. Like, we're normies compared to them, okay? Like, we're the normies in their eyes. So this is the Minimi40. This is an upcoming board. It is a very small board that comes with a cover. This is supposed to look like a bento box. This is one of 5 colors. This one is the white, and this functions as a cover or like as a wrist rest or as like a storage thing if you need. So looking at the cover, you can see that it does have this silicone piece right here, and this is to kind of help for whenever you put it on the top to keep it into place. But it's also really good as a wrist rest because this also keeps this from like sliding around, as you can see. Whereas if this was just the plastic, you could see it would slide, but because it has this also incorporated, it stops it from like shifting. I think that is a very clever design. So you can see this has kind of like a rim, and that's for the cover to then close onto it. But the bezels are pretty even all throughout the sides and the top. This is actually 2 separate parts. So you have this top part and this bottom part, and you can remove this, and technically you could put a different color here if you wanted to. This board uses leaf spring, so if you know what the salvation looks like, so same kind of concept. It's like a step above, I would say, like your regular tray mounting. If you are trying to take this apart, you would take off the Z key, the S key, the question mark key, and the L, and you can see those 2 screws right here. This is what keeps everything inside the board. If you're buying this hoping that it will like latch close, or if there's like a button, there's not. Like this is just, it's very like loosey-goosey. Right now there is a little bit of warpage. I think that's just the nature of how the case is. Also, this has been sent around a lot, so this board I'd say is meant to be more for like travel, and also like, you know, over time, you know, might get like some of these things, but the functionality is still the same. So for the wireless, I do think it's interesting that the switch, you have to remove the keycap and the switch to get to it, rather than like what I've seen traditionally is like having like a small cutout on the plate where you can access it just by like taking the keycap off. This is like a non-issue, but it's just interesting and you have to be aware of that. So in case you're like, oh shit, I gotta turn wireless off, right? You gotta remove this and the switch at the same time. If you are building it, especially if you're building a hot swap, there's nothing really to like keep the plate up, so you just have to be aware of that. So some comments about the battery compartment. That's the other thing, is there was only one screw kind of keeping it flat. One of the sides was like slightly lifted. Not really like a big issue, but I just wonder why they didn't put like 2 screws to kind of make sure it's really flat. But as you can see, it didn't like disrupt the board in any way. It was just kind of like, oh, that one's like a little up. But overall, I would say the biggest selling point for this board is all the compatibility that it'll have, like PCB compatibility. So what I mean by that is not like the layout necessarily of the PCB, but it's like the different styles of PCB that you have. So basically, you know, you'll have the staggered, which is, you know, quote unquote the normal. They're offering ortho, and they're also offering EC. That's rare. You know, it's one thing for like an MX build to have EC, but it's another thing for an MX build to have, you know, the staggered, the ortho, and then have EC as well. And plus, I don't know that many 40s EC boards at the moment. I can't really think of any off the top of my head right now. This one has 3 that you can pick from, and I think that for me is like a big selling point personally. While the board does start at a relatively like affordable price, I imagine once you add like all the different like PCBs and plates and stuff, because you know they're separate, I think that's where it all will kind of add up. I think Canon Keys has been doing a really good job with creating these boards that are meant to, you know, I don't want to say like take a beating, but there are more affordable options that you can kind of take on the go. And you really see that here, you know. It has a cover, it has this little like sleeping bag or puffer jacket, it has like the straps. So if you do use a 40s like and you work at the office, you know, you could easily take this into the office and or out of the office and use it there. That's really cool. One thing to note, they are making this tighter. So that's good. There's this thing called a soft off. So it's like their way of turning it off. But when you do that, the key presses won't work, battery is conserved, wireless is turned off, but it's basically an ultra low power mode. And that has one keybind, but then to turn it back on is a different keybind. And that's also something that I found very interesting. They don't have pricing on the EC one yet, but for those who are wondering, if you add on the PBS, the keycap set, it's $33. I guess my final thoughts is this is a very, very cute board, as you can see right here. And it offers great layout options. Of course, if you're buying it for the sound, you kind of have to go into it with certain expectations. This is something that I could definitely see people wanting to mod, especially if they're looking for a certain sound profile. It sounded fine to me. There are so many like additional features of this board that I think kind of like dwarf the whole sound. If you're buying this for sound, I would say don't. But it has so many other features that come with it that I think make it worth, especially like the lower price point. But personally, if you are someone who's like, sound is very important to me, like I personally think for what it's made out of and how you assemble it, the sound is actually very fair. It's not something where I'm like, oh God, this is like unbearable to listen to. No, I think it's fine, right? Definitely this is a board that caters to, you know, if you're looking for something that, you know, you can take on the go, if you're looking for something with like a cover, something that you can, you know, take into the office like very easily. This would also be really good for like a tablet if you have like cats or dogs and, you know, you just want something to like cover. Or if you eat a lot of chips at your desk like I do and you don't want to get into your keyboard, you can also easily just like cover it, call it a day. But the fact that it is wireless is also really fun. And ZMK, from what I've used of it, has been really good so far. I'd say the configurator is like a little janky and does need some working on, but the cool thing is that they're consistently working on it, so that's really good to see. But yeah, it's a multifunctional board, and I think for the pricing it's very fair. Would I buy this personally? I think personally yes, I would, like just alone for how small and cute it is, and also the fact that it will come with an EC kit. But yeah, I do think this is a very well designed board personally. So that's my thoughts. Thank you Canon Keys for sending it out to me. Thank you all for watching. I do really like this board. It's honestly something I would consider getting. All the options, in my opinion, make it worth it. But yeah, that's the build. That's it. Cute.